What is it about samurai stories that are just so addicting? I wonder if I'll ever tire of seeing a cloaked figure with a straw hat stroll into a lawless town and dish out some good old-fashioned justice with skill befitting that of a noble and patient warrior. The lone samurai warrior on the path of righteousness outside the law has so worked its way into popular culture that you can see it everywhere, most notably in the classic westerns that were directly inspired by their highly influential films. The difference between the Western lone gunman and the samurai, however, are their motivations. Samurai are honor-bound, devoted to the code of ethics that they pledge to follow in the service of their lord. The spaghetti western anti-hero, however, is only really in service of themselves. They only happen to do the right thing if it benefits them. Whether or not they get emotionally involved in their cause is irrelevant. They're still paid in the end. Not every single samurai story follows the honorable hero, however. Some can be selfish, even rejecting the label of samurai entirely, only using the skill and notoriety that comes with that title for nothing more than bloody revenge. In recent videos, I asked all of you for some recommendations. Some shows and movies that you feel I might enjoy and might even want to talk about here on the channel. I do take those recommendations seriously, and have a bit of a watch list going, taken from your comments. The show that I'm going to talk about today was one of the most requested, and I've got to say, to those of you who commented this show, you've got some great taste. Mizu drifts across the snowy landscape of Edo-era Japan with a purpose. That purpose makes no room for friendship, compassion, or mercy. Brandishing a sword made from a meteorite, Mizu quickly dispatches an entire dojo, even taking down their prized student, just to get the location of a weapons dealer. Everyone is taken aback by not only Mizu's skill, but those piercing blue eyes hidden behind tinted glasses. Mizu is not normal. Mizu is someone who, in this intensely isolationist period of Japanese history, is to be mocked, shunned, and even feared. Mizu is biracial, the child of one of 4 white men who illegally remain in the country. The years of discrimination and cruelty that has been shown Mizu has manifested into one purpose: vengeance. Vengeance against the 4 white men that could be Mizu's father. One by one, Mizu is hunting them down, leaving a trail of corpses behind. This is a story about revenge, honor, and identity, and like the character of Mizu, this 8-episode Netflix animated series has so much more underneath the surface, hidden by a simple-sounding revenge narrative. This show amazed me with its action sequences and gorgeous animation, and kept me invested with its deep, interesting characters who all go on journeys that are as exciting as they are unexpected. While I won't be breaking down every single episode or plot development in this video because I want those of you who haven't seen it to go watch it, I will be discussing several major spoilers, so it's best to go watch this series right now and go in blind. Trust me, the beauty of it was not knowing where it was going. This is the first animated series that I binged in 2024, and if this is any indication of how this year is gonna go, it's gonna be a good one. I was completely blown away by Blue Eye Samurai. The series was created by husband and wife creative team Michael Green and Amber Noitsumi. The idea for the series actually came from the birth of their own child, with Noitsumi recalling a point in history where the birth of her child would have been met with shame and discrimination by the people of an entire country that had sealed itself off from the rest of the world. This theme of racial identity is the heaviest of the series, with people's reactions to Mizu's skill as a warrior being nowhere near as strong as getting a look into those blue eyes. Some characters outright label Mizu as a demon, something to be feared or slain. Heading down the path of the vengeful warrior forces Mizu to cover up not only race, but gender. The fact that Mizu has to hide pretty much everything that defines her in order to simply survive gives her one of the most engaging internal conflicts that I've seen in an animated series in quite some time. Essentially, she's been robbed of her identity in all aspects. Everything that she truly is has been shunned or hidden, and what remains might be the vengeful demon that everyone accuses her of being. If not only for the brief moments of humanity that come to the surface every now and again. This is a character that grew up beaten and shunned by the world around her. and she places the blame squarely upon her father. Her revenge is her top priority, and she makes that very clear to every single character that she encounters. There are plenty of TV shows and movies where the loner main character threatens to kill someone, and you know they aren't going to do it because they're the good guy underneath that rough exterior. With Mizu though, when she makes a threat, there's some serious weight to it. And honestly, you kind of understand where she's coming from. What makes Blue Eye Samurai so surprising is how much it commits to the main character's philosophy. Mizu is ultimately in it for herself. Even if she shows some moments of genuine compassion for another character, she gives up any happiness she might have with them because her vengeance must be had. She outright says at one point that happiness isn't her goal, it's satisfaction. We see the origin of that philosophy in a flashback in episode 5. Here, it's revealed that Mizu actually stopped her revenge quest and married someone who, at first, didn't mind her mixed-race heritage. For once, she seems happy, but when she reveals her true nature as a warrior to her husband, in a fight that he initiated for fun, by the way, he rejects her. It's left ambiguous as to whether or not her husband or her mother sold her out to the soldiers, but it ultimately doesn't matter. Mizu tried happiness, and all she received was pain in return. The question that drives both her internal conflict and the entire show is, will Mizu become that unfeeling demon that everyone says she is by taking her revenge? There are glimpses, fleeting moments where she does want to reach out and form relationships with those she encounters, but so many years of pain stops her. Her revenge isn't easily dropped, nor is it easily embraced. She does grapple with it, but it ultimately is all that she has. The writing and characterization of Mizu is phenomenal, and so is every single other character in this show. I'm gonna cover a few here, but you really need to check out the show to get the full effect. Taigen is set up as a typical rival character who tormented Mizu as a child and actually grew up to become a samurai, only to get his ass beat by her in the very first episode. He goes down an engaging, yet done before arc where he reflects on how he treated Mizu in the past and comes to regret it, all while in the pursuit of a rematch to reclaim his honor. Taigen is a man of honor, and is completely devoted to the code of the samurai. But through his interactions with Mizu, he comes to question what that code even means. If he is to protect and stand up for the innocent, why is he made to believe that biracial people are demons? If he is to believe in the shogunate, what does he do when he sees those in power for what they really are? Every single time Mizu shows a hint of doubt in her quest, so does Taigen in his. So much of his dialogue is declarations of greatness, how he's the superior warrior because he follows a code that Mizu has shunned. But it's Mizu that makes him cast doubt upon his great purpose. She has an influence on him, and it's not a good one. This is how Taigen's arc is unique when compared to other rival character stories. Watching where these characters start and end by the season finale is what made this so satisfying for me. It's crazy to see this character that starts out with this devoted sense of greatness ultimately tell his lover Akemi that he no longer wants to be great. He simply wants to survive. Essentially, he's accepted Mizu's outlook on the samurai, much to the disappointment of Akemi, a character used to explore the themes of womanhood within the series. Mizu hides her true gender, but Akemi doesn't have that luxury. Being a princess, she is to be married off for political gain against her wishes. At the start of the season, she loves Taigen, and runs away when she is forced to call it off with him when he loses his honor against Mizu. Her experiences in the real world outside of her sheltered upbringing teach her how she can use the power that she has as a woman to manipulate the men around her, to hopefully do some good in the world for everyone. She gains a new perspective from her two guides, her lifelong mentor Seki and Madame Kaji. Seki nurtures her intelligence from childhood, himself having observed the way that political power is manipulated in his lifelong servitude to his lord, while Madame Kaji teaches her the best way to use it, having seen firsthand the desires and weaknesses of powerful men that can be exploited. Like Taigen, Akemi evolves as the season progresses, at first fleeing the world that she was brought up in, and then realizing just how much power she actually has within it. Where Taigen exits the season conflicted about the nature of greatness, Akemi stands ready to embrace the greatness within herself. Every single main character in some way or another struggles with who they are in a world that may cruelly, violently reject who they are. Do you choose to be great or to survive? Can you actually make a difference with the tools that you're given, or do you have to transform into something more? Something that you may not want to be to achieve your own satisfaction. Again, I'm not going to go through every single plot point, episode, or character because it would rob you of experiencing all of it for yourself. But you know me, I've got to talk about the villain. There are a few different antagonists in Blue Eye Samurai, each representing a level of corruption in some way or another. Some are weapons dealers who can be bought and sold to the highest bidder, their loyalty only as valuable as the goods they sell. Others are politicians, working behind the scenes to topple the shogunate. And others are just cruel men that trample upon the less fortunate and get away with it due to their influence. The main villain of this season, however, works on two different levels. Fowler is one of the 4 white men that Mizu is hunting, and he is a cruel, vile, brutal, hedonistic monster of a person. He delights in being a piece of human garbage. In a way, he is the living embodiment of the excess that men who have bought and paid for their position in life can get up to outside the laws of even a country as isolated and strict as Japan was at this point in history. Fowler is the driving force behind the corruption of those in power, the instigator of a bloody uprising against the shogun that leads to the deaths of several innocents. All of the murder and bloodshed would be enough for any good person to want to take him out, but Mizu only cares about the possibility that he could be her father. In the final episode of the season, when the two engage in their second battle with one another, he directs her attention to the destruction happening around them. The raging fires burning Edo to the ground is the result of his plot. A plot that Mizu knew about and could have acted towards stopping if her sole focus wasn't on her revenge. Fowler digs deeper and deeper and refers to the burning of Edo as a blood sacrifice to her revenge, and that her actions were her white half showing. A good villain drives the conflict of our main character, and Fowler only ever really interacting with Mizu in 2 episodes greatly contributes to some of the greatest writing in the show. Something interesting to point out about Blue Eye Samurai is that despite its title, Mizu never actually accepts being called a samurai. She's certainly skilled enough to be one and trained as hard as any, but it's actually the character Ringo who looks up to her as a samurai, going as far to call her his master. Ringo is inspired by Mizu, as he himself is an outcast. In a way, Ringo represents the spark of humanity that Mizu holds onto as she goes to the darkest places for her revenge. There's this beautiful moment where she chooses to do something selfless by saving Taigen from Fowler, and she thinks of Ringo. In this moment, she chooses to do what's right, to act honorable. Even though she may outright reject the title of samurai, Ringo may be onto something. Maybe Mizu is more of a samurai than any other warrior she faces in the series. These moments are my favorite moments in the show, when characters go above and beyond what everyone says that they are or expects them to be. Well, that and all of the unbelievable animation. Blue Eye Samurai's animation was provided by French animation studio Blue Spirit, taking visual inspiration from several sources. The most obvious being the classic samurai films of Akira Kurosawa and Masaki Kobayashi, and the westerns that were inspired by those films from filmmakers like Sergio Leone. Character designs were heavily inspired by traditional Japanese bunraku puppets, which are depicted in episode 5. The series is animated with a mixture of 3D and 2D techniques, with characters rendered in 3D and certain effects like blood and fire being animated traditionally. I love how the creators designed every single shot. It feels like something you'd see out of a classic movie, with careful framing and shot composition utilized to enhance the emotion of a given scene. The final episode of the season is even presented in a similar aspect ratio to the films that inspired the series. Blue Eye Samurai is as beautiful as it is badass, with every single action scene just bursting with energy. The reason the fights feel so realistic is because the animators referenced actual choreographed fights that were shot in live action first. That level of detail also extended to the period-accurate clothing, examples of which director and producer Jane Wu actually brought to the studio from her personal collection. She demonstrated how characters moved in these outfits, and even taught some of the animators a little martial arts, just so the show could be as accurate as possible in depicting the time period. It's important to note that this is a mature series, by the way. That attention to detail isn't just depicted in the visceral, bloody violence, but also in plenty of sex scenes. The gore and nudity isn't just there to be there either. It's all done to reflect the world that was created for the series. A world inspired by a very real point in history. It isn't romanticized in any way, but it manages to pull off all that brutality with style. The colors are vibrant, the visuals are unforgettable, and there's even some modern day needle drops here and there that feel like something out of a Tarantino movie. Yeah, I love this show, and I'm thrilled that a second season has been announced, because there's just so much more that I know these creators can give us. This story isn't finished yet. These characters have so much more to experience. There's so much more action to be witnessed, and I cannot wait to see it. Like I said earlier, I don't know if I'll ever tire of experiencing samurai stories, especially if they keep making them this damn good. Thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. Please go check out Blue Eye Samurai, it's on Netflix right now. Also, please go check out some of my other videos and leave me a comment down below of any other movies or TV series, live action or animated, that you'd like to see me talk about. You did pretty good recommending this one, so I can't wait to see what else you've got in store for me. Please consider checking out my Patreon if you want to support the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.